What's up, everybody? This is Disciple Rick coming to you again with another podcast. I know it's been a minute. It's kind of funny. I do a lot of scripting of my podcast on things that I want to discuss, and I just wonder, is these good podcasts to discuss? Maybe I just put them out anyway. But I got more coming, more things coming because a lot has happened. And I just wonder how to put the experience of growing as a Christian into a podcast that would make sense, because you're trying to take the spiritual experiences, the things that you learn and how you deal with them in life, and then you process them, and then you want to explain them. So that's kind of what's going on with that. But this is a different one. This is all about an experience, just a regular experience. As you can see from the title, I had one of my younger sisters passed away, and I attended her funeral, Jada funeral. So I just had to tell you about that. And it's just definitely cringe. I just had to put that in there. I hadn't been to a Jada meeting, funeral. The last one that I had actually attended that was kind of sort of Jada was my father's funeral. And that was 8 years ago. Yeah, about eight and a half years ago. My father had actually stopped. He was inactive, so they couldn't do it at the Kingdom Hall. And he had already expressed his views on the organization actually to the circuit overseer, to the elders. So they couldn't do it at the hall. And my sisters would not accept that he had left it alone. He would attend the meetings occasionally with his wife, not my mother, his wife. My mom passed away. He would attend the meetings occasionally with her, so they didn't think that he really left. So they did the funeral J-Dub style. In fact, but more of his non-J-Dub, there were more of his non-J-Dub friends and family at the funeral than J-Dub's, because my dad was pretty well known in this area. So that was the last one I attended. So you're talking about 8 years. I had been to a couple of, since I had left, I've been to like 2 other J-Dub funerals. But again, you're talking about 8-9 years ago. And those were just people, I think one of them, these were people who had really helped my family out back when my mom passed. And I was a teenager. And, it was 5 of us kids and my dad. So my dad wasn't a witness at the time. So these folks were really helping him and us. And there were a few who were still around. And when they passed, out of respect for the years, that they had helped our family out till we really got stable after my mom passed, I attended their funerals, just out of respect for them, for what they had done for me and my family. But then again, the last meeting, J-Dub anything I attended, I believe, was my dad's. So the organization had changed even more since then, and their requirements. So attending my sister's funeral was, goodness gracious, it was. That's why I put the cringe up there. It was really cringe, the way they do things now. But I gotta tell you the whole experience. Okay, so hopefully y'all get a kick out of this stuff. I just had to share this with somebody. All right, so look. So my sister had been sick for about 2 years. All right, and so she passed away, and my other sisters had put the funeral together. All right, now I'm gonna tell you the truth. My sister was living out of town when she got sick, and I went out there to see her, and I'm telling you, I just got the feeling that she really wasn't doing too much in J-Dub. She made some friends out there where she lived, but she wasn't really doing too much in J-Dub at the time. I think she was on a different journey, self-discovery, all that other kind of stuff, And she was trying to figure some things out. And to figure it out, she got away from all of us, So it wasn't her first time, because she had actually lived in New York for a number of years with her friend, not too far from Bethel. So I think she attended a congregation that had like 1 or 2 governing body members, that kind of stuff, So she become friends with a lot of folks up there. Anyway, So anyway, I didn't get the feeling when I went out to see her a couple of years ago that she was doing much with Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, attending a meeting every now and then. That was just my own feeling. But hey, she came back here. She had to move back here because the family was going to take care of her. All right, so she passed away. So they put the funeral together. Me and my family go to the funeral. All right, so check this out. So we're walking in to the Kingdom Hall that the funeral was at. All right. And it's one of them old, I ain't gonna say old, but for a while, Jehovah's Witnesses the organization was making them build, when they built something new, they built a double Kingdom Hall. So it was at one of double Kingdom Halls. All right, so I'm coming in with my family. And so we're walking to the entrance of the Kingdom Hall. So there's two guys standing there. And I know both of them. All right. So one of them, let me kind of tell you the backstory on him. All right. So one of them, this is back when I was an elder. Even before I was an elder. So one guy had gotten this fellowship and reinstated, but he had gotten this fellowship for alcoholism and adultery. All right. So black brother. Now he was attending a different hall, married a white sister, and then had a child. Okay. But then he got involved because, he would be drinking a lot. So he got involved with this other lady. She was a white lady, got her pregnant too. All right. Anyway, he got this fellowship. All right. You kind of knew that. All right. But here's the thing about it. In this area, especially back then, interracial marriage was frowned upon in my area. All right. It was really frowned upon. And even in J-Dub circles, this thing was frowned upon. So he got his fellowship, but the hall, the Kingdom Hall congregation that he was at, when he got his fellowship, the presiding overseer, because we were still on the PO thing back then, the presiding overseer actually, before he became a witness, had gotten up to be a grand dragon of the Ku Klux Klan in the area he was in up north, I think of Minnesota, something like that. So I kid you not, that dude was he was the grand dragon. So look, this dude was going to be the fellowship no matter what, but still. All right, so he had started attending the meetings at the same congregation that I had started attending. And, it was different from the one I grew up in, but anyway. So he had started attending meetings there. I think I was a ministerial servant at the time when he had started attending meetings. Dude worked hard, got himself together, going to meetings and all that, got the alcohol under control. So he submitted a letter for reinstatement because he was attending the hall that I was at, plus his mom was there and whatnot. And so you had to contact the old congregation because they were the ones that had to reinstate him. And so they didn't keep their records tight. So they're like, look, whatever decision y'all make, we good with. Y'all go ahead and make that decision. So the brothers on that committee said, all right, cool, we're going to reinstate him. So this dude got his family coming in there. His brother lived, in another state, the neighboring state. His brother lived there, drove down like a 2.5 hour drive, but still drove down with his family, and his friends, everything was there, and they were waiting for this dude to be reinstated. All right, service meeting, they was going to make the announcement to be reinstated. So the night that this was going to happen, when he was going to be reinstated, the other congregation calls and says, don't reinstate him. We found some old notes. And it's like, are you kidding? All right. So all that set up, and then, he didn't get reinstated. So he had to go over to the other hall. And so Grand Dragon over there, or former Grand Dragon, was on the committee. So they raked this dude over the coals. I mean, it set him back. It set him back a couple of years. I don't know. Anyway, it set him back. He was really disappointed, stopped attending the meetings and everything. So it took him some time to get back from that. But in the interim, Grand Dragon got removed as the presiding overseer because, he was just a poor presiding overseer, and he had his family there, sons, his sister, all his family was there. So he had he got removed. This dude was just ignorant. I mean, I had met him before. I come across him a couple times. He kind of seemed cool, but he had this edge to him. And like he didn't really care for blacks. So anyway, what they did though, so they brought in this dude who I didn't really grow up with the dude. I knew him. I was kind of closer to I knew his brothers who were younger. So they brought him in as the presiding overseer at the time. And they brought him and another black brother in to be secretary. And so when this guy had applied for reinstatement, this time I was an elder and then I was on his committee. And so it was kind of a formality. He had gotten himself back going, attending the meetings. He's straightened again. And so we had to do the same process, contact the other congregation. So, hey, they wanted to jump back into this thing with him and have him come over. And the new presiding overseer said, oh, no, we ain't doing that. Because he knew the story because we were still in the same circuit, but he was in the neighboring congregation to us. So, we chop it up. Everybody kind of knew. So he moved out there. Anyway, he took care of that. And they were like, whatever decision y'all make, we're fine with. And said, well, we're going to reinstate him. All right, so dudes get reinstated. And so now I was on his judicial committee, but I was also the guy that they assigned to study with him to kind of get him back going. They do that when you've been going for a while. So I studied with him, and we developed a good friendship relationship. So, he would call me, and, he had some whatever things he was going through or what he was dealing with, he would talk to me about it, and I would advise him on stuff. So one of the things he was dealing with is that he was kind of struggling financially, even though he had a good job, but, child support, from both kids that he had. So there was another guy who I had studied with who used to be a Baptist preacher. And so he was single. So I said, hey, why don't you two, maybe move in together? That way you can help each other out. Y'all just going to talk about it, communicate, and, write up a little something. So they did. They lived together for, I want to say maybe a year or two, just helping each other out as two single men. All right. So, that was the guy that was one of the guys at the door as I was coming in. So, hey, it's customary. What do? You reach out to shake a person's hand. Dude wouldn't shake my hand. He just kind of gave it like a little slight nod, like, yeah, whatever. So I was like, oh, okay, it's like that now. Okay, cool. Hey, you know what? It ain't no big deal to me because I don't really care. I was just being nice myself. So, all right, just walk on in. Now, the other dude, let me tell you about the other guy who was the doorman. So this dude had moved to the congregation that I grew up in when I was about 19 or 20. All right, he was married, but he married this sister that she already had 2 or 3 kids when they got married. Then they had like 5 kids together after that. And I knew her 2 older kids. The 2 older kids, the one, her son, he was older, like maybe 4 or 5 years. So I knew him from, places we play sports together, do some sport things together. I didn't really know him. But then the daughter was close to my age. So, we crossed paths and, in the circles, how it is, you got witnesses from this hall, y'all all friends. And then, some folks know some other folks and y'all meet up. Hey, what's up? How you doing? And so, on occasion when we were out with our friends, I met her and our group hung out. That was about as close as I knew who she was. All right, so them two went kind of wild. So he got deleted as an elder because of those two. So then he leaves that congregation and kind of, in protest and anger, comes to our congregation. Now, I didn't too much care for him myself because I knew the dude was really pretentious. He just wanted the accolades of being an elder. He would circle over there, come around, and he would show out for, whatever he was doing. All right, yeah, cool, man. No big deal to me. But I didn't really care for him. However, he and his wife developed a good relationship with my dad. All right. And so they were all friends. But again, different generation. But I like to say, the dude was pretentious to me. He was very shallow. Now, his wife was kind of down to earth, but he was shallow. And in fact, my dad had developed a kind of a mentor relationship just years later, developed a mentor relationship with his youngest son. All right. So Now I can't remember when the boy got married if my dad was his best man or something, but I do remember a discussion taking place because my dad didn't want to do it because he felt that he should have his father as his best man. That's just how my dad was, you know. But I think he ended up being his best man in his wedding. I can't really remember, but you know, my dad was more in terms of the age difference. My dad was grandfather age compared to him, but hey, he wanted my dad as his best man. So I think he did. I can't remember for sure. But anyway, that's the connection between our two families. Dude wouldn't shake my hand either, nor say a word, not even say hello, not even say, so they own that thing, both of them, you know, not even saying a greeting to a person. I ain't just fellowship. I may be inactive, but I ain't just fellowship, you know. But hey, you know what? If it makes y'all feel good that y'all held fast to the governing body's edicts, y'all feel good about yourself, more power to you. That's just on walking in. That's what I dealt with. Okay. So finally we get inside. All right. We inside the Kingdom Hall now, and we're making our way to our seat. And you know, they had, you know how they do it where they make the front row for the family, for the immediate family. So I walk in, and I wasn't going to sit in the front row anyway, but they had a seat for me. Now, I'm going to tell you this. My sisters, especially my older sister, you know, they put this thing together, and it was just really ridiculous to me. You know, I knew how it was going to be, but yet they had my dad's wife when he passed in the front row. Now this chick has really no connection to us, but she's held on to that. And honestly, I'm being serious when I say this. That chick was a witch, and her mama was a witch. You know, I knew there was something wrong with her before, but once I left and I started to understand, you know, more of the spirit realm, the chick is a witch, for real. And I think she used her witchcraft on my dad anyway. But yeah, she's a witch. And they had her in the front row. I ain't sitting up there. You know, I ain't saying nothing to her at my dad's funeral because, you know, she was all lovey-dovey and, you know, she liked the fact of where I was in relation to the organization when I was an elder. But as soon as I stepped down and leave, now she just like really turned against me, couldn't stand me and all this other kind of stuff. Well, all right, it's cool, you know. I ain't got no connection to you other than he's married to you. But once he died, you know, I didn't care nothing about him. So anyway, they had her in the front row. Man, ain't no way I'm sitting up there with her. Anyway, so I sat with my family, my immediate family. You know, I wasn't gonna sit up there. So I came in, but we made sure we came in like 5 minutes before it started. Maybe by the time we got to our seat, it was like 2 minutes before the meeting was gonna start. So some people who I grew up with, who I had known for a long time, hey, you know, they spoke, shook hands, all of that as we're making our way to our seat. You know, they spoke to us and all that. I didn't have, let me say this, I didn't have too much of the animosity that I had from the other guys that was coming in. And by the time we got in, we didn't have time to speak to too many people. It was just saying hello as we got to our seat. All right, now let's get to the cringe besides that. The guy who gave the talk was a guy, we go back 25 years. We did our first symposium, a public talk. We did it as a symposium together when we were ministerial servants. All right, so he's giving a talk. But you know, not everyone, you know how they do the songs before and then the song after. All right, everyone is looking at their phone, and then you got the words going across the screen like karaoke. You know, so nobody's having songbooks. They don't even do that stuff no more. It's either a tablet or a phone, and most people with the phone. I'm like, wow, this is really different. This is like really different. And so, okay, that's going across. I was like, karaoke type. So then the dude starts giving a talk. And during the midst of the talk, my daughter yawns. And this is one of them yawns like, oh. And I just laughed, you know, because look, going back 25 years, what we used to do, all right, the congregation that I was at, that I had moved to. So what we used to do when we either start off giving a talk or do a new outline, we would meet up at the hall and kind of do our introduction to it, kind of go through the talk. We would have brothers with us to kind of critique. So we was telling this dude 25 years ago, man, you are boring as all get out. There's nothing exciting about your talk. There's no interest. I mean, it's just like monotone. And he just refused to change. He thought that to put any emotion in the talk was not right. I would tell you about his dad, but anyway, that's 25 years ago. Now he's giving us funeral talk, and my daughter yawned. Look, we tried to warn you 25 years ago, and my daughter yawned loudly. It was kind of one of them things, and we're in the second row now, keep in mind. So it's kind of one of them things like, are you kidding? I wasn't mad at her because I just laughed. Like, you still boring. Why didn't you improve in your speaking ability? But hey, all the good speakers probably left the religion anyway. So yeah, he gave the talk. Oh, it was boring. It's all get out. I'm trying to fight sleep myself. Now, one thing that they did, this is a big change on how they did the talk. The dude, back when I was coming up, I had another sister. She was younger, about 16 years ago. She passed away. And in that time, when you give a memorial talk, and you didn't focus on the person, you may have given a little bit, maybe with the eulogy or something like that, just a little bit about the person, but the talk was more focused on the J-Dub interpretation and the religion, the hope that J-Dub put forward from the scriptures. It was not about the person who died. So I guess they have changed it over the years because he kept focusing on scriptures that talk about people dying and the survivors grieving over it. So that was a big change, Oh, that's how y'all doing it now? All right, well, cool. So he was doing it like that. It was still boring, but it was new. Boring as all get out. So that's a big change, because they did focus. He talked more about my sister. Then another little thing that was interesting was that they interviewed her closest friend, the one she had lived together with up in New York. And they still stayed good friends. So they interviewed her. Oh, okay, that's another change. All right, that's interesting. Cool. But the thing that was really cringe about it is that, I'm looking at the eulogy too, and they got this video that they're saying they're going to play. I'm like, okay, was this going to be a video with my sister saying some words or, like a video of her and her friends and all that? That's what I thought this thing was going to be about. No, it was not. The Jehovah's Witnesses put out this video. It's called The Real Life. And the video is like all these young folks running on the beach, having fun, doing their thing. And then this one girl, you can tell she's going through some sort of sickness. And she's a little hurt that she don't get to run around with her friends and maybe she's going to pass away or whatever thing. And I was like, are y'all kidding? You played this video. It's a religious video. But you play this video of something that's not even connected to the person that died? I was like, oh my gosh, who does that? That tells you how that religion has really, really changed and become more centralized. They just refuse to take their grip off of things. See, not only that, the music going across, when they're doing the songs, we're doing the songs. Look, the way they have done these songs, y'all, to me, was completely different than the way I grew up. Now, I kid you not when I tell you this is real. I'm sitting in the second row, so my other sisters are in the front row. And as the music is playing, they are actually swaying to the music. It's not like, you just, how people stand there and they kind of sway just because it's just a natural movement. You don't stay completely still. No, they're swaying to the beat. I'm like, oh, this is getting ridiculous. And then what I did, when I saw that, I looked at my wife, like, can you believe this? But when I looked at her, I look around, I see other people swaying to the beat. I was like, oh man, this argues it. I don't think, look, even if I could accept the doctrines, these changes that they made, I was like, oh no, man, ain't no way I can stick with this. Everybody running around with big beards. A couple of brothers got the big Rick Ross beard, and I saw a couple of folks with almost a Duck Dynasty beards. I kid you not. So That organization is like, how could you look? I grew up in a time in the '80s where everything was, coming to an end real soon. When my mom died, she told me, and this is 1985. She telling me that this system ain't gonna last 10 more years. That was 40 years ago. Okay, so that's the type of situation in for believers where we knew this thing was coming to an end really quickly. All right, that's how we grew up. Yeah, that ain't happening. So they had to change. The further away you get from 1914, they had to change all their doctrines. So you see how things have changed. And I'm going to use the term, but it's just things have changed psychologically for folks. They have said, hey, you know what? We ain't going to have this sense of urgency, but yet we're going to stay part of this organization. So things have really changed. I mean, really, really changed. I mean, I can't believe they was swaying to the music and in this cringy video that was just absolutely ridiculous. Okay. All right. So look, we made it through that funeral talk and it was like, oh my goodness. So my wife was like, she felt her discernment, her spiritual discernment is pretty strong. Okay. So she felt what was going on. She was trying to get the heck up out of there. Whereas with me, it wasn't going to be as quick because of all the people that I knew. See, since this was my sister's funeral, these were people that were closer to who I grew up with, these folks I grew up with. All right, so we try to make our way out of there, though. We both trying to, like, let's get up out of here. But folks kept stopping me and everything. So one of the people that stopped me, I thought was kind of funny. This one was worth mentioning. One of the people that stopped me was a sister that kind of grew up with in between both of us. So she used to live across the street from my wife. Then when her parents separated and divorced, they moved around the corner from me, but then started coming to the congregation that I was at. So I knew her growing up. We were all friends, all around the same age. Her and my sister developed a good friendship and all that, blah, blah. All right. So she came up, gave me a big hug, gave my wife a big hug, just so happy to see us. And her son wasn't with her, but I think her son was like 5 or something like that. My son is 6. So she says, we got to meet up and keep up because our children need to know each other. And I'm thinking, like, do you realize I'm viewed as an apostate? You want my kids hanging with yours, but I certainly don't want my kids hanging with J-Dub kids. So that wasn't going to happen. I thought that was kind of weird. I'm like, wow, it's crazy. So, but inside the Kingdom Hall, there were people who were far friendlier and just in that term, who I grew up with and all that, who knew us and all that, who were, hey, they gave hugs and good to see you, I'm sorry about your loss and all that. One couple that we kind of knew, had come up to us, came to me to offer their condolences and everything. Now, the funny thing about this one was, my wife had saw her not too long ago, maybe about a year ago or so. And they were at the park. And my wife was there, saw her at the park. And she's there with another sister and that we knew. And they were just sending so much hatred toward her. They recognized each other. They didn't speak or anything, but just sending all this hatred towards her. And she was like, I don't care about y'all. So anyway, but now, they coming up real friendly. Sorry for your loss. It's so good to see y'all. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, ugh, Jada. Ugh. But they was on their turf, so they can do all that love bombing. And I don't know what they was expecting because ain't no way we was ever going to come back to any of that stuff. But yeah, that was another interesting one. But for the most part, folks was friendly, giving hugs and all this other kind of stuff. But that was part of Jada love bombing. My wife was like, I got to get up out of here, She felt the spirit in there. Now, like I said, about me, a little different story. But anyway, so I finally make my way out and make my way back to the car. And I get in the car and my daughter is just going off. She's like, this was the worst religious experience I have ever been a part of. She ain't been to it. Yeah, she ain't been to anything Jada. When she left, when we left, she was what, a toddler. So she ain't seen nothing in 10 years. So she wouldn't even remember it. When my dad passed, she was what, 6? And it was Jada, but it wasn't Jada because it was at a funeral home. So anyway, she don't remember anything from that, So we've gone to a few other services just to check them out, maybe someone I knew there, or whatever the case may be. So she's going to those. But she said this was the worst religious experience that she has ever had in her young life. She couldn't believe why were they doing the karaoke and all that. That made no sense. And people dancing. Oh, she was going off. And then she said, this was interesting. That video, she said that was an AI video. She picked it up. I guess she saw the whole Adobe AI thing when the video concluded, because she was like, I can't believe she saw that. Because, again, the video was cringe. It did not make any sense. Why would you have something like that? That's not even connected to a person. But you're going to have something like that? And she said it was AI driven. It was an AI video. It wasn't real. Wow. No wonder we felt cringe. I mean, the kid picked it up. And we finally had to tell her, she was, that really frustrated her. We finally tell her, all right, kid, come on, this is good enough. But yeah, she wouldn't let that go. We were just laughing. My wife and I were laughing because you know what? Her experience was real. She spoke of it as the most ridiculous thing she's ever seen in a religious setting. Now, I ain't taking it to a black church. I ain't gonna do that. So you can get more ridiculous than even some of these evangelical churches, what they do. You can get even more ridiculous than that, but that was bad. That was bad. Now, wait, I took her to one of these, we were just checking out the churches in our area. So I took her to this one church. And what it was, in the church, I best describe this. It's the whole lights, camera, action show type thing where they got the different color lights and the loud music and people were praising and doing whatever they doing. And she was like, at a certain point, she was like, can we go? I'm like, yeah, all right, we can go. She's like, oh my God, that was terrible. Now, at the same time, this dude has his stuff online. And so my wife was watching this thing online as we were attending this thing. All right. And so she was like, boy, this was terrible. Ugh. It did. It felt like, you were at a Broadway show, or not a Broadway show, but at some sort of show where they got the lights and the flashing lights and all that to disorient you, So it felt like that. So we took her to one of those. And she said the Jehovah's Witness thing was worse than that. It really was. It really was. That funeral was terrible, man. I hate that my sister died young, because that was my second sister who died young. She died in her 40s. But how can you even, look, I don't know if it's any of you all who still attend Jehovah's Witness meetings or have occasion to go back. I don't think I will go back until, for another funeral. That's probably the only time I go back. Family members or something like that. That'll be the only time I go back. But I think it's going to get worse because a lot of the people who I would attend, whose funeral I would attend, or the ones that are left, have been there a long time. So they were there when I was growing up. And the thing is, it's just so different now because of that urgency that we had to deal with growing up with, where the system's coming in so quickly. And now that's all past. And they even saying that, hey, a lot of folks that are upset because, they were expecting the end to come in their lifetime. And the further you get away from 1914, the more ridiculous this coming to an end thing seems. So the older folks are very disappointed. But, they've invested time, energy, and emotion into this religion. They're not going to just up and leave it. So they'll still be around. So if there's any of them left, maybe some family members, yeah, okay, I'll attend their funeral. But even for my age group, I'm Gen X, if you want to go in that term, it's so different. One of the guys that I grew up with, I saw him a couple years ago. We were both at work and we crossed each other and we were talking, And he said, I remember he said this. He said, "Can you believe we still here?" And he was making a point that we're still in this system of things, and it's hard to believe. Yeah, it's actually hard to believe because we grew up with that urgency. Now he's been married, has kids. His kids are grown, and that sense of urgency when we were in, because we actually went to the same high school, even though he was a couple years older than me. But look, they're doing stuff now where they got basketball leagues, and they travel to different cities and play other Jehovah's Witnesses. I kid you not, they're doing this kind of stuff now. That's urgency stuff. It's gone. It's completely gone. And so my generation feels a different sort of freedom. And you can see the generations that are younger are like, we can stay or we can go. We don't really care. What's the benefit? I mean, they looking for real at cost benefit analysis and like, hey, we out. So that organization is going to have a heck of a time as these boomers start to pass off. As they die off, then Gen X, at least in the United States, Gen X ain't holding too tight to it. A lot of us have left. And so now you're relying on some of these younger folks, and they ain't that interested in it. It's like, hey, what benefit do I get out of being here? So it's going to be a different type of thing. It's going to be a real different type of thing. So anyway, look, I just had to kind of tell y'all that, just a personal experience. Like I said, so cringe. That funeral was terrible. It really was. And I feel bad that that is going to be the memory that my children have, especially my daughter, my son too. You don't care. But that's going to be the memory of my sister, and how the organization, the religion itself, puts a strain on relationships. I do notice that too, especially for my generation, that the relationships to other family members, when you're in, is not good. I noticed that a lot of, you really got to you have to make an effort to stay close when you're in. But let's say someone leaves, like myself. There's just no connection there. The religion has broken down those family bonds, and you got to be loyal to the religion, thinking that you're being loyal to God. And that's what I noticed. See, the two guys who, when I first walked in, they are older generation, they're boomers, younger boomers, but they're still boomers. So they were really into that, oh, we can be loyal to the organization type thing. Family members, whoever be damned. We're going to be loyal to this organization. So I'm not even going to speak to you because you left the organization. Like, seriously? Okay. All right. But that's a different type of mentality. And you start to go to the different generations. It's like, hey, a lot of stuff broke away. So, yeah, there were people who were speaking to us when we were in there and hugging and all that other kind of stuff. Sorry for your loss, that type of thing. But they were of my generation and younger. Some folks I knew that were younger. So, in fact, there was a couple of younger witnesses who actually text me when they heard my sister pass and say, hey, sorry for your loss. Okay, I appreciate that. I didn't know them too well, but well enough. There was some connection, and I hadn't heard from them for years, but they had my number. Hey, sorry for your loss. But so people are breaking away from it. And what's going to be that religion? I have no idea in the next coming years, but I don't think it's going to be anything good because they are losing, I'm using the term market share. They're losing that big time, and they're losing money behind all of these cases. Barbara Anderson said, there's more stuff coming out that's really going to rock this organization. So see what that's going to be. All right. Well, look, I just want to throw that out there. I got some other stuff I want to talk about. I hope y'all be interested in. Like I said, religious, the spiritual experience is kind of, it's kind of hard to relate. You can relate it, but you want to relate it in a way that does not sound crazy, but telling you, hey, it's a real thing. And I want to share more of those experiences in relation to the scriptures. Because I tell you, it's completely different being a Christian with the Holy Spirit for real and not worrying about religious doctrine or even scriptural doctrine. I'm going to say not scriptural doctrine like that, but just trying to form doctrine. I'm just all in it mentally and intellectually. Totally different experience. All right, so look, I got some more stuff I'm going to share a little later, but I want to kick this one out. And so thank you everyone for listening. Just give me some feedback if you like. And I will talk to y'all on the next one. Everybody take care.